Hello.
Hey, so I hope everyone's doing good. I just wanted to share a quick thought today and then introduce the person I invited tonight. So, my thought tonight is I went to Senior Gold Retreat and um, I don't post it publicly, but my husband's been deployed for the last 10 months. He's actually in Kuwait on his way home, which is really, really great news. And so he will be home in about a week and a half. And so going through all of this year has been a lot for me and for our family. And Harmony, she's another ambassador. I don't know if you guys have heard her name. She didn't come to Senior Gold Retreat, but she sent along this book. You see it? It says, Today, Tomorrow, and Every Day, Thoughts on Living a Brave and Real and Gorgeous Life. And I thought it was just really sweet that she would send me this book. She'd never met me in person before. And she said that it helped her a lot to have these good, positive thoughts and then told me to pass it along to someone when I'm done. So I've been reading it slowly. There's just kind of like little quotes and like this just little basic of story. But I spoke to somebody today who is on this similar health journey. And Brooke and I kind of talked about ways that we could help her. And when she shared that she was reading a book, it's just a typical, like, off the top bestseller book. And I said, I would just challenge you to replace some of the time where you typically watch, like, the latest suspenseful TV show, or replace a book that you would grab from the airport, and just for a period of time, substitute those in for self-improvement books and positive things. And something that I realized is that I'm actually out of time to watch TV shows and all of those things recently. And so the very little time that I have in the car, I could be listening to fun music, and sometimes I do with my kids, but I am listening to things that uplift and inspire. And I look at how the last 10 months have changed since I've been doing that. And where a period of my time in life where it would be totally appropriate for me to be like, this sucks, right? And just every night be like, stare at my empty house and just think, I am so overwhelmed and overburdened, and this is so hard. And now, to be honest, right, it is hard. I am overburdened. I am exhausted. And I've had pockets, but it hasn't been so overwhelming. It hasn't been surrounding and getting in the way of my health goals, my work goals, my family goals, because I feel like I've taken all those small little parts of time and replaced zoning out to Grey's Anatomy, and replaced it with things like reading books like this, listening to an uplifting podcast or a YouTube video that someone has sent. And those replacing things have really helped me on my journey. So I don't know if you guys have done any of that with your life. But something that spoke out to me tonight when I was reading this quote that said, my priorities change, she said. I make time for things that truly matter. Old friends, favorite books, grand opportunities, good chocolate, tiny, beautiful things. I always wanted my life to be filled with all that I loved. And then I realized it was possible. I just had to make it happen. And so how often is that the case, that we see somebody else's life, or we kind of have the dream of like, gosh, if my life, like my ideal life would look like blank. And then are we taking the time in those pockets around work, around kids, around, the dishes and the necessities to create that life? Or are we just kind of like putting it out to the wind and hoping for it? And how we do have a lot of control over those. We can purchase good chocolate. We can connect with old friends. We can search Amazon or Audible for good, uplifting books that really help us mentally on our earthly journey, spiritually, all of those things. And so some days you're going to wake up and the sun is like bright, right? Like the world is good, right? Shauna wakes up, her puppy snuggles with her, and she's like, my life is amazing, right? But 6 months ago, on a random Tuesday, she probably woke up and just felt the burden of something else, right? You're going to have both of those days. And there's days where you know it's going to be a good day, like something hits you off and it's great. And then other days, it says there may be only one wonderful moment, right? But if you make it a point to appreciate it, then when you harness it and you focus it and you appreciate that one thing that went well, the one good thing, the one smile, the one wave, the one compliment to something as you're out and doing your errands or working, then you start to notice other moments and other moments. And then you seek to find and pull in those moments because they are so precious, because they're so unique, and you have to kind of reach for them. It's not something that if you just sit in your home, these things just appear. But it's very easy to pull in things that are distracting in the world. And it's also very easy to pull in good. So my challenge to you over the next week is to look for ways, like get to that point where you're about to turn on that show, that series that you've been watching, and just say, tonight I'm going to try something different. Tonight I'm going to listen to something uplifting. If you need help or if you hear something, I would love it if you would share it in our coaching thread, or share it with your sponsor. Share it with somebody that you're on this journey with. Share it with a friend, share it with a relative, or reach out to somebody and say, hey, I love you, and I know that you listen to this stuff. If you ever come across something that you love that's inspiring, will you just share it with me, right? And then just save it to your notes and create like a little folder of inspiration of things that you've heard, so that on those days where you are like, oh, I just feel kind of down, or I just feel like I could use something, just click on something and listen. Listen to somebody, Oprah, or listen to the people on YouTube that have inspiring things to say. There's honestly a bazillion of them, right? That are like these motivational people that when you listen, you're just like, oh my gosh, I can tackle the world. Because those thoughts will turn into actions, and those actions will turn into habits, and that will affect all parts of your life. So that is my challenge to you. That's what inspired me this week. And that's something that I've noticed, that when I take that time to do that, it fills me up and I feel like I can do anything. And that is a great feeling, to not feel burdened, to not feel helpless, to not feel hopeless, and to not be like, well, it works for everybody else, so why not me, But to say, why not me? Why can't it work for me? Of course it can work for me. All those positive affirmations. Okay. Moving on, we have a man in the house. His name's Egan, and I met him in person. Where did we go? Down in Santa Maria, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Phyllis, I kind of hopped on board her little train of her opportunity meeting that she had. If you guys know Phyllis, she's phenomenal, and she's been a great inspiration of somebody who started Plexus on a steam train. That there's really no other way to describe it. We used to joke like, I need a Phyllis, like t-shirts. And then we kind of mellowed out and thought, it's not up to us to find a Phyllis, it's up to us to beat a Phyllis, right? But she is inspirational, she is loving, she is kind, and she had an opportunity meeting, and over the course of her signing people up, Egan and I connected through our stories. We actually have very, very similar stories. And so I would love for him to share his similar story of stress that turned into an autoimmune. And I think as you hear it, you'll understand how these are all connected, where we try to think, well, maybe I've just always had it. I honestly don't believe that I've always had this, and mine is not hereditary. Nobody in my family has it. Similar story. So I would love for him to share his story a little bit with you guys.
Thank you, Julia. Appreciate it. So hello, everybody. My name is Egan. I'm 37 years old, and I live in Southern California, so just south of where Julia is at. I am married. I have 2 kids, actually a new baby. You might hear her pop on here. She's upstairs right now, but she's 3 months old too. And so just a little background on me, I was always kind of the person who felt like did everything right. So, in my full-time job, I'm a firefighter paramedic. So that's what I do full-time. But I was always that guy that I felt like I always did everything right. I exercised daily. I always watched the latest documentaries, YouTube, try to eat healthy, not a lot of sugar, and just try to do all those right things. And the only medical problem I ever had before any of this was a little bit of seasonal allergies I got from pollen. And so that was kind of my story initially. So that was all the way up until about 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, it was almost 5 years ago to the day, almost, it was October of 2013. So my son and I got in an accident. So we were sitting out front of a coffee shop on like a patio, and a car drove right through us. And we were sitting like in a table. I went one way, my son went the other. He was 3 years old at the time. So just a little bit about the accident. So my son was underneath debris, partially under the car, and I couldn't find him. And then as I was trying to reach down to find him, I see him lying face down under the car, not moving. And so as I go in to pick him up, I think I'm experiencing every parent's worst nightmare of picking up, your child that could be dead. But as I picked him up, he started crying right away. And so that was obviously the best cry you've ever heard as a parent, because I knew if he's crying, he's going to be okay. So anyways, long story short, we went down to the trauma center and everything. We just had bumps and bruises, and actually we were discharged later that day. So nothing short of a miracle, obviously. And so bumps and bruises, but however, like kind of the emotional toll was something that was kind of yet to be seen. Obviously. So about a week later, I noticed my middle toe was about the size of my big toe. And then that popped up on the other side. And going back, that's like kind of the first sign of psoriatic arthritis. I had no idea. So I went to the doctor, actually ended up going to the hospital, getting an x-ray because I thought I broke it in the accident, and then nothing was broken, but it was huge. So that kind of triggered everything. So from a year from that point, I started dealing with plantar fasciitis. So if anybody's ever had plantar fasciitis, it's basically like walking around on steak knives, I think is the best way to describe it. So it's super painful. So I dealt with that for the next year. And then that led into my hip problems and back problems. I thought I had back problems, but it was actually a result of my hip. I go see a chiropractor and they say I have osteoarthritis. I'm like, I've never had arthritis at all. And so then I started down the path of an orthopedic. I went down to UCLA 3 times and almost had surgery on my hip. I could barely walk some days. I could barely pick up my child. And I couldn't go to work for a period of time as well. Off and on, my hip would actually kind of give out. It was so painful. That was my struggle for probably the second year after the accident. And then all along the way, I'm seeing specialist after specialist. And all of them are just saying it's osteoarthritis. And then about 3 years in, I started having skin issues. And that's when I started noticing, I thought I had like jock itch, not very fun, but hey, it's there. And then I started having issues with my scalp. And I thought it was dandruff or other issues. So I used dandruff shampoo, tried all this other stuff. And then and nothing worked. And I went to the doctor and they said, okay, it's seborrheic dermatitis. And I'm like, well, let's see. I have arthritis. I have skin issues. What about psoriatic arthritis? Because I have a family member who has it as well. And they said, nope. It said it's not related. I'm like, okay. So I started doing my own path, even though I was healthy up until this day. And now all these years later, I'm having all these things and they seem all related, but no one's putting them together. So I started my own kind of thing. I did steroid creams and that kind of cleared up my skin, but all my, it would come right back. So about a month into it, after doing the steroid cream, my skin would come right back, which told me right there, it's not a skin thing. It's something that's going in on the inside of my body. And so I started, and then I actually ended up seeing a naturopath doctor, which was great because I was starting to learn a little bit about gut health. So I saw a naturopath doctor, and then so with being seen by him, and the treatment path was $1,100 for 1 hour. So obviously very expensive, and ultimately didn't really work for me. So he gave me a treatment path and it ended up not working. He was the only one who kind of tied everything together for me that kind of related it to psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, but nothing really ultimately happened with that. So I started my own kind of thing about gut health, reading books, YouTube, and started taking tons of probiotics because I heard that was good for your gut. I did the expensive refrigerated ones. I tried you name it when it comes to supplements. I've tried tons of stuff, protein powders, supplements, vitamins. I've tried all kinds of things along the way. And I never really felt like any of the probiotics were working. I'm like, I heard it's good to take, but nothing's really changing. And so fast forward a little bit later, I started seeing my friend Phyllis, who's a nurse, and I work with her husband. And she started posting about some pink drink. And I had no idea what it was. I thought it was just some weight loss gimmick, and I didn't understand what it was until she came by the station one day, and she said it was all about gut health. And I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense to me because that's what I've been kind of researching, and I have these issues. And I said, well, if it actually works, then I'll swear by it because I've tried everything else. I've spent all this money, all this time, all this suffering, and nothing's worked. So you know what? I'll try anything at this point in time. And so let's see what you got. So I started off on the Triplex X Factor Plus, and about 6 weeks in for me is when I started noticing changes too. So I had a little bit of like kind of the detox and die-off symptoms, and Phil's coached me through part of that. So nothing too crazy. And then after that, it's kind of the fog kind of cleared. And then about 8 weeks in is when I started noticing my skin actually reversing. So, and I'm the one, I had all these conditions and I never took anything for them. I never wanted to go to the injections or anything else or steroids. I tried to fight all that stuff tooth and nail because I really knew that something else was going on in there. So I stopped using all steroid creams, and now my skin is permanently reversing. I'm now 10 months in, almost 11 months in, and my skin is permanently reversing to where like I can barely notice it now. And this is absolutely by far the only thing that's actually reversed my skin. So I actually have some pictures too of my scalp because it used to be pretty much entirely encompassing around and on top. And now it's probably about the size of 2 dimes on the side of my head. So it's real minimal and I don't even notice it. So, and then no joint pain. I run every day. I don't have that. And something I didn't even know I had was anxiety too from all this stuff too. So the PTSD after my accident is what ultimately kind of triggered this autoimmune disorder and led me down this path. And something else that I thought was normal was tossing and turning and taking about 2 hours to go to sleep every night. And so then that's when I added Vital Biome. And that's what's helped me the most with kind of that stress and reducing that anxiety. And now I sleep like a baby, and I swear by that too. So I take Triplex, X Factor Plus, Vital Biome daily. That's my regimen. Haven't stopped in a year. And that's the only thing that works. And it's a lot cheaper than seeing a naturopath doctor for, $1,100 a day. So, and then ultimately, so obviously this health path has led me down. So I was asked right away by Phyllis about sharing. And I'm like, no, don't talk to me about that stuff. And then, but lo and behold, as I started doing this and seeing other people's stories and seeing what these products were and how they've helped so many other people, as a firefighter, I'm in the business of helping people. And so I look at it like, if you see your neighbor's house on fire, are you going to just drive by? Or are you going to call 911 and tell them that maybe they should get some help? So I look at it from that standpoint. I don't want to see somebody suffering next to me when I know I have something that can help them. And so that's what kind of started my journey of wanting to share with others. And so as we've been sharing along the way, it's just been amazing to me to see the amount of family members, friends, coworkers that have never said anything, because most people aren't going to advertise that they're having skin issues all over the internet. So, but they are going to message you when you have something that could help them. And then the journey of people getting off medications that I've seen or weaning off, we don't recommend that, but obviously talk to your doctors about that stuff too. But just that journey alone and the amount of people that we've helped along the way is just truly amazing. And to me, that kind of fills my heart because, obviously I'm a helper, I'm a paramedic. I love to do this. And this is even more fulfilling to me because I have family and friends that I've helped specifically, not just, strangers, which is fulfilling, but not quite as much. It's so nice to be able to help family and friends along this journey. And so in regards to a lot of this, I could have done without 5 years of suffering, but I'm super thankful that I had this journey because it's led me to this path. If I would have just rolled over and said, oh, this is what I have, I'm just dealt this card. I'm going to go see my doctor, get my next injection, and ultimately could lead to other things. I probably wouldn't be working anymore. I don't know if I'd have a child right now. So the list goes on, but I'm super thankful that I had this because it's led me to a stronger person, and it allowed me this opportunity to share with others and find my path. And ironically enough, that accident, I try to look at the silver lining of everything, but that accident was the reason why I met my wife. So I got in that accident, and she was actually the reporter who wanted to interview me. I'd never done an interview in my entire life, but I felt compelled that somebody could learn something from my story, and so I said I agreed to do an interview with this gal named Rachel. And so I interviewed her, and then we've kind of been together ever since. So I have this accident to blame or thankful that it's led me on this health path. Sure, I could have done without the pain and suffering, but it's ultimately led me to being the healthiest version of myself, led me to have my wife, and now my beautiful little baby girl. So I look at every crisis as an opportunity, and this is a great opportunity.
Could you share at all? I love your story because it's one, terrifying, and that's kind of what situations that I was into. I'd actually, until you said that, I'd never considered that I had elements of PTSD. I always just attributed that to my husband in the military. But no,
Me too.
it's the same.
Yeah.
And I look back on my initial experience and like what was going on in my head, and similar. I thought my son was dying, like legitimately dying. And then I never even thought that would be a cause of something else. It's just like you, like months after months, you're just like, oh, gosh, now there's this new thing popping up, and there's this new thing popping up, and you just kind of treat it as it comes, and you're not even tying it all together. And sometimes it does tie together to a specific incident, and sometimes it's just this gradual thing that shows up over time. So there's different ways. Could you share about how it's helped Rachel as far as like her pregnancy?
Absolutely.
Her recovery, not recovery, but her, I guess.
So Rachel and I started together at the same time with all the products, and hers was a different reason. So she had really bad bloating and digestive issues was kind of her big thing. And she's always been small in her waist. However, when she would bloat, like she would look like she's 3 months pregnant all the time, no matter what she ate. And she ate super clean vegetables, like very little meat, no sugar, no dairy, no nothing. And she'd still bloat. And so nothing would work. She went to the doctor. They would just tell her to take laxatives and other things to try to move things along. And nothing seemed to work. And then, so with her, was it just she was a little faster results than myself, took a little longer, but within a few weeks, her bloating went away. And then she started having, just the endless energy and everything else. And that was before. And actually she got pregnant probably, I don't know if this is all related, but anyway, she got pregnant too, because we were married for about a year, no pregnancy. And about a month or two after, she started taking Plexus when we found out we were pregnant too. And so during her pregnancy, though, she took all the products, the Triplex X Factor Plus, and she worked out till like 3 days, until the doctor told her she couldn't work out anymore. So she stopped working out to about 3 days before, because she was dilated to like 3 centimeters, and the doctor said, no, don't do that. And so she reluctantly said no. So she worked out every day. She never had any morning sickness. And no, the overall pregnancy was really good for her. So she slept good, no heartburn, no constipation. She'll probably go over here and slap me for that. But anyways, so no, everything was very good with her pregnancy. And then also, she also had anxiety as well. And she started taking the Vital Biome like myself. And we take the exact same stuff together every single day. And that has helped her immensely. So then postpartum, with the baby. So, and I know Brooke shared this story as well too, about babies with the reflux and stuff. And our baby's, her name's Zoe, and she had no real problems with any of that stuff. And I actually forgot to share this too, but anyways, we had to buy a freezer down in our garage for her milk supply because her milk supply has been so abundant. So we actually have lots of milk, and I know that sometimes is a struggle for women as well too. So overall, we can't say anything that it's not helped with so far that we've seen. So no, it's helped Rachel immensely with lots of things, and so yeah.
Sugar cravings, I've lost all my weight.
Okay, she's saying sugar cravings now, and obviously her weight. Come on in.
Sorry, I was wiping a butt. Hello, I'm Rachel.
Hey.
This is our little girl Zoe, freshly bathed. Yeah, so Egan was saying, I took Plexus from, my entire pregnancy. It was super easy. Thankfully, I had really good energy. I didn't have sugar and those awful cravings that you have during pregnancy. That was extremely helpful. Bloating was always something I struggled with as well. I'd eat anything and bloat up like a balloon. And surprisingly, also during my pregnancy, I gained a lot of weight, even though I exercised till she was born at 37 weeks, and I exercised till 36 weeks until the doctor told me, close your legs, quit jumping up and down. This baby's going to fall out. So, but I gained like 50 pounds, with eating healthy, exercising, I did gain the weight. And now she's 3 months and I'm still taking Plexus. I've lost pretty much all of my baby weight, which I'm super thankful for. And I think it has helped because of Plexus. And also something with anxiety, as Egan kind of mentioned, always been kind of an anxious person. And so Vital Biome, I take every day with my Slim, and I love it. It takes the edge off. So
That's
nice to meet everybody.
Experience has been too. Yay! It's so interesting too, because I struggled with all of those things, and I've never had a pregnancy with Plexus, but I struggled with every single one of those things that she said. I had incredible morning sickness. I had very low milk supply. It would give me anxiety because I was pumping at work and I could see how little was coming out. And I'd try to hurry and chug water, and it didn't do any. So I'm watching these stories, and it's similar to you. Yes, well, I wish I had this 10 years ago, and it maybe would have helped so many things. I'm also grateful for my story and what I've learned through it, because of it, I'm able to help other people and connect with other people and have my own journey and have that progress. So we're just about at time's up. Does anyone have any questions for Egan or Rachel? You can type in your comments, or you can just unmute yourself and ask any questions. It was very thorough.
Just one thing I had, Julia, I forgot to mention earlier too. I really like what you talked about, the inspiration thing or something motivational, and something that's helped me. I know time is an issue for a lot of people, and I drive to work. I have about 30 minutes to drive to work, but even if you have 5-10 minutes, like you said, YouTube, it's called Be Inspired. And literally there's 5-minute little motivational things. And those are awesome for me just to clear my head or whatever. It just has, 5-10 minutes a day. Just listen to one of those. And there's lots of different people on there, and they're just little snippets of motivational speeches or other things. And I like that stuff too. So it's just, if you got 5 minutes, just pop in your earbuds or something, listen to something. So that's just something that's kind of helped me stay focused and kind of come back to what's important in life.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just a channel.
Yeah, it's called Be Inspired. I think it's 2 million subscribers on it or something too. There's lots of those, but that's just one of them.
Yeah, I think everyone would love to have something like that in their arsenal, because we always have that time while we're making dinner, while we're doing laundry, while we're driving. Everyone has 10 minutes while they're driving, and as we do those things, it'll just help. It'll help. We all need inspiration. We all need more light, light, right? That's the reality. There's a lot of darkness. There's a lot out there. And so the more that we can fill up our space with light and inspiration and hope, I think the better our journey. So thank you, everybody. I love you guys. If you guys want to reach out to Egan on your own, you're welcome to do that. That's kind of the One Plexus thing. So reach out to him directly, ask him any questions. We're always happy to help. And I hope you guys have a great week. I'm excited to hear anything inspirational that you learn this week as you take that time. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Egan.
Thank you.